Hey guys, you're listening to the Couplings Fire Podcast.
Here's a couple of things you might need to know or maybe you just forgot.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Taylor.
We are married.
And we're both firefighters.
Join us as we talk anything and everything fire related.
We don't claim to be experts. We're just two people who love to talk fire. And everything we say are our own opinions.
Our goal is to inspire anyone listening to take the steps to better their department, however they can.
Let's get on to the episode. I did read somewhere on Facebook, I think, that I don't know if it's like a lot of people or just one place or whatever. They're trying to bring back the like medium diameter hose for interior firefighting. And I guess I don't understand what that means. Is that just like 3-inch? Or
when I went through my Firefighter 1, it was small and big.
yeah.
Like, there was a tack line and then there was supply line.
Mm-hmm. But like we had 3-inch at our first department that we never used, but it was there.
Right, yeah.
So like would that be...
It got used for more supply line, but...
Yeah.
When it did get used.
I don't know. I don't know much about it, so I didn't know if you had an opinion on it.
I don't know what would be considered medium diameter. If that would be 2.5 to 3. I don't know. That's
but like 2.5 is pretty standard to also go interior with, though. For career departments,
but
at least.
You can use a 2.5 for. You can double 2.5 and use it for a supply line too, though. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's considered a medium diameter because I don't know much more than a 2.5 and a 3 before you get to 5-inch. I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know them. You Googling it?
Well, I was trying to, but it's not really saying much. So I don't know. I saw it on Facebook somewhere, and I can't remember exactly where I saw it.
I know for a while they're trying to get guys to get real comfortable with doing a 2.5 again on the inside. But that's the only thing I've ever heard. Yeah, I don't know. This week has been a really long week. You did your ICS class yesterday?
I did ICS 100. So the super uber duper basic, and everyone's like, why haven't you gotten that yet? If you've been a firefighter for 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, our department didn't require it when I got on, and I kind of had no other reason to get it. But I'm not an EMT, so I didn't aim for that, and I just kind of honestly put it off.
Yeah, well, that's the only reason I had mine is for my EMT course. And I don't even think I had to take it for my Firefighter 1, I don't think. Not that I remember, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a little bit confusing at some parts of it. I think just the way they were wording things.
Yeah.
But, like, you know all the stuff. If you've been in the fire service even, like, for 6 months, you probably know it. You just don't know it.
You just don't know that you know it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it was easy and quick. Total of not even 2 hours to take the class and the test. So, got that certificate. So, next I'll be working on 200, 700, and 800 to get checked off my list. And then I'll move on to some other fun ones. And people are like, why would you take other FEMA classes if you don't have to? But there are some good ones on there. And it really depends on what you want to do, what you want to get into. So the public information officer, there's a class for that. It's IS 29. Don't know how many hours it is, can't remember. But, that's something I really like and I would like to get into more officially. I mean, I've kind of have been doing the PIO kind of position for a while, just not officially called that.
Yeah. It's the unofficial position of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be kind of cool just to kind of, run over the more, official stuff with that. And, I'm sure other classes on there, too, that, would be nice to just have.
It never hurts to have the extra knowledge anyway. I mean, I don't know that I'd go out of my way for, what did that one guy say? He took, 40 hours or something like that?
Well, he did ICS 300 and 400. So between those two classes, it was a total of 80 hours.
Yeah.
And they were all in person.
Yeah. So I don't think I would go out of my way to do something like that. But I mean, easy courses, not necessarily even easy, but just courses you can do online on your own time and get that extra knowledge, even if you feel you already know it. I mean, you might as well.
Oh yeah, well, like last year during all the lockdown stuff, I mean, I was doing IFSI, which is the Illinois Fire Service Institute. They had a bunch of classes online that you could take, and you had to be on there at a certain time for their different Zoom classes and stuff. But I took a bunch of those and I loved it.
Yeah.
I learned quite a bit in like the rural water supply one and stuff, because even though I run the tanker a lot, I have ran the tanker a lot, I still learned a lot from it, and it's a lot more of, it was really cool because they actually have a formula where you can figure out, like how many trucks you're going to need depending on how long it takes your trucks to go to your fill site, come back, and how long it takes for them to fill. And you can kind of almost have it pre-filled out most of the way, and then just like track your first truck, and then you're going to figure out how many trucks you need, if you need more resources on scene or not, to keep up with what you need to use to fight the fire. And so it was really cool because it's like math, and I don't love math, but like, having something like that where you can like have it pre-made and ready for, work to get done and stuff is and make it easier. And honestly, stuff that other people don't really care about, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So.
No, I don't know. It's one of those deals like people probably do it with, well, not without thinking, but they probably do it. They have never gone through an official class to do it. So, it's just all kind of done in their head, and that's what you do, And so, yeah, I remember you telling me about that. That's pretty cool. So, and I'm not a huge tanker guy, so I'm not on that side of it, but I could definitely see it, but.
Yeah, so I mean those classes, I mean there's other places. People don't really love UL, but at the same time, I don't mind it, especially for the stuff, like just some of the stuff to learn about like the basement fires. I learned a lot on their online class that they have. And anyone can go take it whenever they want, I learned a lot off of that. I think, because I told you after it all, I'm like, I learned all this, like, and I got stuff I got it right, because I was basically testing myself later, and like I'd put it to YouTube fires in my head, and like test my knowledge on this stuff, and it worked. Yeah. It was right. So.
Well, and even I guess the thing that gets me is like, even if you know the knowledge that's being presented to you, there's always little tidbits and stuff that you don't think about that a lot of times is presented in the classes that you just don't think about. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert or great or anything like that. I have very little experience with it, but I feel like I know how to fight a basement fire. But yeah, you brought a whole bunch of information to me that I just honestly just kind of never thought about, and like, oh, that is interesting.
We might have to get into those one day.
Yeah.
On here. That'd be fun.
Would be fun.
It'd be a lot of fun. Anyways.
So. Would
you like to say hi to everybody?
Sure. Hi guys. Welcome to the conversation.
Hello. Welcome in. We have an exciting episode for you guys tonight.
We do.
It's very, very exciting.
It's very exhausting.
How's it exhausting?
Because just listening to him exhausts me.
Why? He's not boring.
No. That's not what I'm getting.
I'm trying to like get it right in these people's heads that he's not boring. That's not what he's saying.
I'm trying to get it right that even listening to him, I'm exhausted knowing what he does on his firefighter challenge. Like, just listening to him talk about it is just like, holy crap, you do all this and the training, and it's just like, okay, I'm tired just listening. Yeah. So, tonight, guys, we have an awesome interview for you.
It's one of our friends, Shane Smith. We met him at the Les Luger conference that we talk way too much about, and I'm not going to apologize for.
Shane is just an awesome firefighter, and he's willing to talk to anyone, and absolutely just, you can tell he has a blast doing what he does. So
yeah, we get into first of all, he competes in the Scott Firefighter Combat Challenge every year, which is amazing. I've went and seen it before, and it's really cool. If you guys haven't checked it out, go look it up. They have a website. I'm sure there's runs of it on YouTube. Go check out what it is. It's pretty cool to come back and listen to this and see his experience with it. And then we'll also, after we kind of talk about that for a bit, we'll get into talking about, he has created this class that he's teaching that has all to do with mental health with first responders.
We personally haven't sat in on the class. We haven't got that opportunity yet, but we are in there for what, maybe 15 minutes or
Yeah,
so.
about the
Just kind of
first 10 minutes of it.
at the beginning of this class, and you could just, it was one of those classes you could kind of tell this is going to be a good one. So we kind of talked to him a little bit about that and where that class came from, and it's exciting. It's a fun one. We had a blast talking to him. So
We literally could have talked all night.
yeah, we could have. We actually had to cut it off because we all had to go to sleep. So, but anyway, with that, here is our interview with Shane Smith.
All right, you guys, we are here with Shane Smith, and we're going to talk to him about a few different things tonight. So, Shane, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Hey, thanks for having me on. Well, my name is Shane Smith, so you did get that right. It's hard for me to pronunciate that. I usually like to tell people the last name is spelled S-M-I-T-H. The S is silent. You can figure the rest of that out. So, so I am a career firefighter in McCook, firefighter paramedic down in McCook. I've been with the city since 2001. I did the testing for that department a week before 9/11, and so was actually a part of they offered me the job the Monday before that big event happened in the fire service. So
Wow.
that was kind of how I started my life as a career firefighter. It was like, it had a huge impact on me and everything that I've done since. So, so I started October 1, 2001 with the city. I was a EMT basic at the time, and then decided I wanted to pursue the paramedic and went on. I got my paramedic in 2004. And I've been practicing as a paramedic since. Before I joined the city, I was a volunteer with Red Willow Western Rural Fire Department hazmat response team out here. So I have been on both sides of the fence. I have walked the volunteer shoes and I have walked the career shoes. And I kind of like being a volunteer once in a while. So I can see myself transitioning back into that role again. I told you guys before when we first hooked up that I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel as my life as a career firefighter. Have done a ton of things, got to see a lot of the world in the United States, that is, I guess. Got to experience some things that I would have not ever got to experience had it not been for the fire service. So I'm eternally grateful for that. Get to meet cool people like you guys. And
Thank you. There's a lot coming from you. I'm like, what? We're cool people.
So, yeah, and I taught for, I know you guys had Tim Zender on from out here a few weeks ago, and I taught with Tim in the fire science program. So Tim likes to brag that, he got all of us as his instructors. And I have to occasionally remind him that I got him his job because I turned it down. So,
Oh, oh that's awesome. Tim, if you're listening.
Yeah. So that's kind of me. That's my professional life. My personal life, I have 2 kids, amazing kids. Neither one of them are in the fire service yet. I hope they follow in my footsteps and at least become volunteers. I could really see my daughter becoming an EMT. She just kind of lives for that stuff. She's spent enough time at the firehouse that she kind of has picked up on all of that and really enjoys the EMS side of it. She likes seeing all the gross injuries that no one else likes to see. So, and Chris likes to do the fire side of it. He's done some fire trainings with us, and we put him in the pack, and he's been a victim for us a few times and gotten carried out of a building, and that's always fun to hear him kind of squealing around. But he works at the work ethic camp here, so he's a corrections officer, so he gets the whole first responder, law enforcement side of it. And we've had several conversations that the impact that has on your life. And he was pretty excited when he got that job because he's like, I finally feel like I'm helping someone. And so, yeah. And I have a 2-year-old grandson. I know I don't look old enough to have a grandson, and I don't, but but I do have a 2-year-old. So we got to hang out with him for a little bit this evening before I hooked up with you guys. So that was pretty awesome. So
Yeah, it is awesome. So,
and then I have been dating an amazing woman since about December, which kind of leads into this whole topic of why we are here tonight. So that's kind of fun.
all right. So we
I
need,
put you on the spot.
Yeah, right? Like, we're like,
so Shane, you love, from what I understand, you love doing it anyway. You're part of the Firefighter Combat Challenge.
So
kind of,
yeah, first off, I want to figure out what was your journey to getting into that and why, and because that seems like it's a cool thing, but like not everybody does it. So how did you, is that where you're going with this?
sure,
Okay.
go for it.
How did you even find it? How did you find out what it was? How did you decide you wanted to do it? You know, stuff like that.
Well, it's kind of funny how I stumbled into it because I really did just kind of stumble into it. But I first saw the firefighter, and it's the Scott Firefighter Combat Challenge. So Scott Air Packs they've been a sponsor of this for, before I was involved in doing it. So Dr. Paul Davis created this in 91 as a physical fitness ability, like candidate testing for fire departments.
Okay.
Because there really wasn't any true candidate physical agility tests out there, and they were trying to, get the whole science behind it. And so they ended up, he worked with some departments in Maryland. That's where this all originated from, and created this unique event that has turned into what ESPN calls it the toughest 2 minutes in sports. And that's my first exposure to it. Was I saw it on TV and I thought, holy shit, those guys are badass. And then it was like 2006. Our department, we had a few guys from our fire department that went out to Denver and did a relay race. So the Scott Combat Challenge, they do an individual, they do tandem races, they do a relay race, and they decided to go do the relay race. And it's 5 different guys, and there's 5 events. So each one picks an event and kind of the one that you think you're going to be the best at. And you go race against another team and the clock. And in the relays, the relay race is like a tournament bracket style. So the faster you run, the higher your seating in the tournament or in the bracket is. And then you go head to head. And as long as you keep winning, you keep advancing in the bracket. But then once you're guaranteed 2 races. One is a seating race for your seating time. And then your next one is, if you win, you go on. If not, you go home. So,
oh man.
yeah. So then in 2007, they were doing it again in Denver. And I was like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And one of the volunteers that had been on the team the year before wasn't on our department anymore. And I'm like, hey, I would love to go do this. And so I ended up doing the hose drag portion of the relay race. And as long as we do relay teams, that's my event that I do. And I have kind of got it figured out and have been able to get pretty quick at that portion of it. And then the next year, and we watched the individuals run, and I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to do. But I'm like, there's no way I'd be able to do it. So the next year they were competing and they were going to go to Omaha. My first year we ran in Denver, or Westminster, and then in Omaha. The guys from Westminster are, at the time, were pretty well known on the circuit as far as having one of the faster teams. And so they were hosting an event, and we had teams like the Air Force Academy and from Colorado Springs that just kicked everybody's ass at the time.
Oh my God.
Like, you know, they're training at 7,000 feet. So they were one of the fastest times. You know, the current world record holder for the female division, Juliet Draper, was out of Colorado Springs. And I meant to look up and see what the world record time was for the women, but I can tell you the men's world record time currently is like 1:17.
Holy crap.
That's moving.
And,
Holy cow.
and the relay race, the world record, I think, is 1:14.
Holy
I
cow.
mean, it's just, they're flat flying. Those guys are, it's fun to watch those really fast teams like that, but it's also so intimidating because you're like, holy cow, I'm never, like, how do they do it? Like, it just boggles my mind.
You gotta still make yourself go up and go still compete against that just in case. And just like, I gotta go show
right?
people I can still do it, you know?
Yep. So we ran against a team from Texas that first year that I was doing it, and we just got our butts handed to us, right? I mean, they just smoked us. And it was kind of funny because we still ran a fast enough time that we qualified for the world championships.
Jeez.
So in the relay race, anything under 2 minutes qualifies you for the world championships, and you can at the end of the year. So they do a 64 bracket team, and you go out and do a qualifying run like 3 days ahead of time. It's a week-long event, and they do 3 days of preliminaries, and you run a seeding race to try to make a fast enough time to qualify in the 64. And we didn't run fast enough to qualify in the 64. But we had a lot of fun. We had a local business here that at the end of that first year, they like, you guys qualified for the world championships, you have to go. So a bunch of businesses here did fundraisers for us because they wanted to see McCook go to the world championships, and we're all like, yeah, well, you know, we're going to get our butts handed to us. And, you know, but it ended up being a really cool experience because, you know, we met some super cool people through that process, you know. And then Golight was the business that stepped up and said, whatever you guys are short, let us know, and we'll match that at the end so you guys can go. So we've since 2007, we've ran under the banner of Team Golight McCook Fire Department. So Golight is just a huge supporter of the fire service, and you know, their lights are on fire trucks across the United States and around the world. So it's nice to have that kind of in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But then that next year, 2008, I wasn't able to go compete on the relay team. And we've had several different people fill in on the relay team throughout the years, and just, you know, trying to find the right mix of guys to be super competitive at it. And so that next year I didn't get to go. And I was like, you know, I still want to do something. I'm like, I think I'm going to do an individual. Like, and my goal the first year was, I just want to finish it and see if I can do it. So it was kind of a mental thing and a personal challenge for myself. So we went to St. Louis, I think it was. Yeah, I went to St. Louis for that very first year, drove McCook down to St. Louis and to run for 4 minutes, you know, less than 5 minutes of work, you know. And I was like, it was at the time the most physically demanding, hardest thing I have ever done in my life. So kind of to break it down for those that don't know what the Firefighter Combat Challenge is that it's 5, like I said, it was designed as a physical agility test for fire departments. So it's 5 job specific tasks that firefighters have to do. And the first event, or the first part of it, is a stair climb up 5 flights of stairs, carrying a hotel pack or a high-rise pack that weighs 50 pounds. So you put that on your shoulder and then you're sprinting to the top of the tower. And then the next at the next event at the top of the tower is a hose lift. So they have a donut roll, a 2.5-inch donut roll that weighs 50 pounds basically by the time you get the donut roll itself and then all the rope and the hardware that holds it. Sprint back down the tower, hitting every step on the way down. So
I didn't know that was the thing that you had to.
You have to hit every step coming down. You can skip them going up, but coming down, you have to hit every step or it's a 1-second penalty.
Oh, geez.
And then at the bottom of the tower is the Kaiser forcible entry sled, which is a 160-pound piece of steel that you're hitting with a sledgehammer, an 8-pound sledgehammer, and trying to move it 4 or 5 feet. From the Kaiser sled, you go over to, they call it the delineator, which is a fancy TV name for a slalom course. So you run through an obstacle course of cones, and then you drag a charged 1.5-inch line, like 75 feet, I think it is. And when you get the line stretched all the way out and you're dragging the full weight, is just over 200 pounds. Go through some saloon doors, knock a target, you open up the nozzle, spray water on the target to knock the target down, drop your hose, and if you leave, like if you drop the hose and the bail stays open, it is a 3-second penalty, I think, or 2-second penalty. There's another penalty associated with that. Pick up the 180-pound Rescue Randy mannequin and walk it backwards 100 feet. And it's the longest 100 feet in your life.
I've seen that one happen. I mean, I've seen the whole thing before, but that last 100 feet seems to honestly kind of make or break people. It tends to be.
Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ran it. That was one of my weaker events. So like I said, when I ran a relay, I did the hose drag, the cones and the hose drag, and I did okay with that. But when my legs were so just exhausted by the time I got to the mannequin that first time, I didn't know if I was going to get him up. Like it took me a while. It's almost like if you don't get him up high enough, or if you drop him, you won't get him picked back up. So you really got to have a good, because he'll start to slide down on you the farther you go backwards on the course. And then, and so then you cross, there's a sensor in Randy's feet. When you cross the finish line, it shuts the clock off, and it's all electronically timed and electronically started. You have a course official that walks with you and identifies whether there's any penalties or not. It's and I got done. Like I said, it was the hardest thing that you've ever done. And did I mention that when you're doing that you're in full PPE, so full bunker gear with an air pack, and you have a mask on, you're breathing air.
No, you didn't mention it, but that is important to note, because I don't think people realize you have to do all that too. And how much weight you're still carrying with yourself while you're doing that, so going up the stairs and everything. Because I know we do have listeners who aren't in the fire service too. And we have people who are just really new to this and whatnot. So they don't understand, this is meant to test if you're, to do this job. So of course they're going to put you in the element you would be.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that kind of, when you do the relay race, you don't have a face mask on. So they call it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just your bunker gear and your helmet.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Pack. Yeah. You have the pack on as well, but you're not on breathing air. So it's just the individual races that you do the breathing air. So it makes it, that added difficulty, but when we do the relay races, they always joke that it's 1/5 the work and 5 times the fun. So, because it really is it's a blast to do the relay races. But and the course officials can stop you at any time if they deem that you're not able to continue, or like if you are at risk to injure yourself or something like that, because they don't want somebody going into cardiac arrest on the course. And in 30 years, I don't think they've had that happen.
That's good.
So they're really mindful of that. And then when you get done, you go through a rehab area, and so they're very mindful of the fitness level of it. And when I competed this year, they even made that comment that it's, you guys have been proven over and over and over again how important fitness is to this profession. And it's because of you and being, models for other people that it shows that being physically fit reduces your risk of, injury. It reduces your risk of cardiac arrest on incidents and that kind of stuff. So yeah, they take it serious, but they also like to have fun. So, and that's the important part. And, so that first year, like, man, I wasn't very fast, but I completed the course.
Yeah.
And that was my goal, is like, I got done and I was like, I did it, and not a lot of people can say that they've done that. And I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. And like I said, the time wasn't that whoopee, but I have lots of years to practice and get faster. So I kind of took that. From there, I'm like, just finished doing the hardest thing that I could do. And I'm like, on the drive home thinking, I wonder when I can do that again. So
Kind of gets a little addictive,
Just a little.
Yeah, it got in. I got bit by the bug that first year that I ran individually. So, and then I was like, because I wanted to improve my time. So then the next year we ran the relay race. I didn't do the individual, and I think we did it twice, maybe 2009. I think 2009 we ran a relay race again. Every time that we've run the relay race since I've been a part of it, we've qualified for Worlds. So not that I'm the reason. Yeah, not that I'm the reason that we qualified for Worlds.
Sure.
I'm just saying that when I run it, they qualify for Worlds. So there was one year that I wasn't on it, and they went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So, but yeah, so they did, that was 2012, I think, that they went to Myrtle Beach. But we've been to Vegas a couple of times to compete in Worlds. They went to Myrtle Beach. And then, they've had the event in Grand Island like 4 years in a row. We talked about that when we first started talking tonight, and at the state fair. And there's a team from Grand Island, Lonnie's Minions, that, those guys are they're seen as rock stars because everybody knows them. And what's fun about the combat challenge events is that the fraternity, I've noticed the last couple of years that the competitors are becoming fewer. There's not as many people doing it as initially were doing it. It's not as popular. I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but they're trying to do some things to get more people involved. And so we just keep plugging away, and hopefully we'll get the relay team back together. What is it? The Blues Brothers say, we're getting the band back together.
Oh, you know how long it's been since I've seen that movie?
So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that I can, one of these days I can go, we're getting the band back together.
That'd be awesome.
Ride an old police car around with a big old microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then one of the guys that I work with, my lieutenant on my shift, I finally got him convinced to do it a few years ago at the state fair. And he and I are the only ones that have ran the individual from our department. Nobody else is. I don't know if the right word is crazy enough, or like, well, I'm not sure how to describe it. Why, they tell me I'm the crazy one. So, like, well, yeah, I knew that, but I kind of take a little bit of pride in that on my department anyway, is because then I set the bar pretty high for those guys, and they're like, yeah, we can't do that. No, we're not even gonna try. So, but yeah, and so it's, like I said, when I did it the first time, it was just to finish it, and then it kind of drove me to get better physically fit, because I thought I was in good shape, and I knew that like I wasn't in anywhere near good enough shape after that first one. So then I started training even harder, and did it again in 2010 and dropped my time by like 35 seconds. So it was a pretty impressive jump for me. And then I went to, and then did it in Grand Island, like 3 years in a row. I was telling you guys earlier, I did it in 2000. Like the last time we did it at the State Fair in Grand Island, I ran, and I had been training good and had kind of mixed things up and thought I was doing really good. And I started up the tower and got halfway up the tower and just couldn't figure out why I was so gassed. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. What the hell's wrong? Felt like I was running with cinder blocks on my feet, and I get done. And my mom looked over, who was there watching and cheering me on. She goes, "You realize you gave blood on Wednesday, right?" So I'm running a quart low, and I couldn't believe the difference that it made. But yeah, I ran a really, not my slowest time, but I ran a substantially slower time than what I had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I gotta do something different. And then, I just keep training at the gym. The guys at work, they give me, like I said, they give me so much grief about it, but I train in my gear. I lift weights in my gear. I can do conditioning in my gear. And then I met this amazing lady at the end of 2020. We did a memorial stair climb at one of the local gyms here, and I met this gal, and I was like, man, she's all right, And then fast forward to the end of the year, I'd asked her out to dinner finally, and she happens to be a personal trainer. It wasn't that I had ulterior motives. That's just one of the benefits of meeting her. But I figured she was put on my path for a reason,
Oh yeah.
And but no, Jen is an amazing woman, and pushes me to be even better in the gym. And so she'd ask me like, well, what's one of your goals? And I told her what I wanted to do with the combat challenge. And I told her the time that I wanted to beat. And she's like, all right, well, I think after the first year, I think I'll train you. Like I didn't have a choice in the matter. She was going to start training me, And
you're doing it whether you want it or not.
Yeah, like, oh, okay. Whew. Wow. That was an eye opener, because I thought I was in pretty decent shape until I met her, and man, she whipped my butt into shape even better. So we just went to South Dakota a few weeks ago, and I ran up there, and this is the Combat Challenge's 30th anniversary tour, and Rapid City, South Dakota was the first stop. So I ran in the first one of the year, and I'm planning on doing another one somewhere around the country by the end of the year, because I want to run another one this year. And I ran my fastest time that I've ever ran. So I ran my personal best, a few weeks ago, and I'm one more year and I'll be in the over 50 category. So my times are getting faster as I'm getting older, but and then I have a goal for next year that I really, in the next couple of years, I'm going to shoot for what they call the Lion's Den. And the Lion's Den is kind of the all-stars of Combat Challenge. And it's, if you run a certain qualifying time, it automatically qualifies you for the Worlds in the individual. And then you get a letterman's jacket and special recognition at the end of the year at a banquet, and the Combat Challenge staff, that the crew, they call it the Lion's Den, is the all-stars of the event. So if I can run 2:30 at age 50, 2:30, I gotta be under 2:30, and I'll make the Lion's Den. So
I think you can do it. You're not that far off now from what I saw last time. So
nope, I'm not
close.
Close. I still got some work to go, but I could shave some more. And the fun thing about having Jennifer there because she had never seen this before. She was like, some people's like, what is it? So I had to find some videos for her to watch before we went up, and was trying to explain to her what each event was. And we were trying to, we don't have a tower in McCook to train off of per se. So it's just trying to, I train with methods that can as closely mimic the course as I can. So weight wise, the same exercises and muscle groups that are going to do it. And
that's exactly what I was going to ask. How do you train for it? So,
yep. So a lot of, like we did, like the first week that she started training me, so this year, I did a lot of conditioning work. And then got into some super heavy weights, and then we kind of backed off that a little bit and kind of went with some lighter weights and higher reps. And then we still kept on doing the conditioning. And the closer we got to going up to South Dakota, then she would adjust things accordingly. And then, I'm still we ran 3 or 4 times of practice through like a simulated course set up as best as we could do it here, and was getting respectable times, and and then having her be able to see the full course and watch me run through it, and then watch other people run through it. She could kind of see where to tweak things and adjust it for me. And so that was a big help for me personally, because I just kind of have been on a whim, really, just like, okay, well, I think I'll try it this way, and then I'll try it this way. But to have somebody that really knows, the ins and outs of it, and be able to key in on certain areas for me helped. So she goes, "Yep, we're gonna work on this, and we're gonna work on this, and we're gonna work on this." I always pick on her when she's, when I get done with the workout, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die." So,
That's awesome.
it's definitely, the more I do it, the more I want to keep doing it. And, I kind of take pride, like I said, I take pride in the fact that I'm as old as I am, and the guys at work tell me you're probably in the best shape of anybody down there. So
that's amazing.
So I kind of wear that a little bit as a feather in my cap. And I know that there's guys that are in far better shape than I am and out there, but it's, in our little department, it's kind of nice to have that recognition and
Definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's fun. So because we started doing our own physical agility testing, every year we do an annual PT test on our department, and it was something really important that we felt like, look, this is a physically demanding job, and if you can't do this, then are you more of a hindrance to us, or are you like, what can we do to help you get in better shape? And we haven't made anything real punitive, like if you don't pass, you're out of here. Like, we work with people to get them where they need to be to pass the test. And there's some people that they can't do it. And it's not that we don't want them, but it's like, we need to find the place on the department for them to fit, and finding that. But so a few years ago, like, I think it was the first year that we did physical agility testing, and part of our physical agility test, we finish it with a 1 mile run, and everybody comes in during the month that we're going to do it and does their test. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm going to skip out, whatever, I'm kind of having fun with them about it. But I think I'm going to try it in my gear. So I did, like, when we do our volunteers, when they do their physical agility test, it's gym clothes, basically, shorts, t-shirt, tennis shoes.
Right. Yeah.
Nope. I'm like, I got to be the oddball. And I'm like, put my gear on and see if I can do it in all my gear, and I put the air pack on, and then I got all the way through our physical agility test, And when we did the 1 mile run, we could either do it outside running around the block so many times, or we could do it inside on the treadmill. Well, when I was in high school, I ran cross country. I hate running on a treadmill. So I'm like, I'll do it outside. So here I am in full gear with my air pack running around the block of the fire station. And I got halfway through, I got a half mile in, and my low air alarm finally started going off on my air pack. And the guy that was timing me was on the opposite end of the block. He goes, well, I could hear the alarm going off. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it or not. I kept on running until I got up to where he was at. So I did a half mile on full gear, and then I kicked the regulator off and then finished it with my mask on, but I wasn't on breathing air because I sucked it all dry. But, you know, so then the next year people are like, oh, I've got to try that. You know, I'm like, they're, you know,
The challenge
he
is
can
not-
do it. Yeah. It breeds a little bit of competition with people. And this year, they, you know, so again, it's just more like, I don't feel like doing it this year. Like we did it. I think it was the first year I ran in Grand Island, and we were doing the physical agility test. I'm like, you're really going to make me do the physical agility test? Like, I just ran the combat challenge. Isn't that suffice? And they're like, no, you still got to do ours. Like, we know you're going to pass, but you still got to do ours.
Yeah, of course.
So, but yeah, it's driven me to be, like I said, physically fit. But then one of the benefits that I found was that it connected me with other like-minded people, and it drove me to like always be looking for better things and better ways to do stuff. And then the amazing benefit that I found was that it made me not as crazy. Like the physical fitness, the exercise piece of it has become that's my go-to when the world starts crushing in on me. And you know, the fire service right now, everybody talks about mental health awareness, right? And I found that the gym was kind of served as a little bit of serenity for me, and I could clear my head when I was in under a pile of iron, and like it was just me and myself and I and the iron in the gym. And I come up with some really good ideas and kind of have been able to clear my head and get myself out of some bad spots. And that's one of the amazing benefits of what the combat challenge has given back to me, is it's kind of helped me with my sanity. So, and we've talked about that on at different events. You know, they made a big deal about it this last year. Is like, man, we all struggle in this job, and don't let it get you down, and it's okay to ask for help. And you know, all of us that have been doing this long enough that, you know, reach out to somebody. You know, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be the guy next to me, but reach out to somebody.
So I know you're gonna say something here in a second, but I want to say really quick on that, Shane, is that I think this last year, with all the fun Corona stuff, I think it finally became almost normalized, where everybody feels a version of it, even if they didn't feel it before. So that they're finally understanding everyone who's felt it all those other years. And so it seems like it's honestly easier to talk about now, because everyone went through, even if it was just a month, a period of feeling that way.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's, you know, so if there's any benefits to the craziness of what 2020 was, is that it kind of helped bring that out of the shadows a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just as far as, you know, physical exercise, I mean, just in general, even if it's not fire service related stress, it's just general life stress, exercise helps out so much. Like, you know, just kind of with where I'm at in the fire career and stuff like that. Like I go running at least once a week, or, you know, if I had a crazy day at work or something, you know, it's like, okay, I just need to go run. And you come back and you feel 10 times better than what you did, you know. It's just, there's a huge mental benefit to it.
Right.
Endorphins, they make people happy, and they make happy
Yep.
people not kill their husbands,
That's
right?
One thing that I wanted to bring up, and I try to show people and tell people as much about it as I can in the fire service, is just the brotherhood, because it's a huge thing for me. That's the big reason why I got into the fire service in the first place, is just because of the brotherhood, that friendship. And when we went and watched our first combat challenge, when we
Mhm.
went and watched it, I remember everyone there was, even though they're competing against each other, they're all there on the same team.
Yep.
And I remember, you running an individual event, stuff like that. Like, so many people's goal there is to just simply complete that course, no matter what the time. And I do specifically remember someone there at that final stage, that final drag, and the last 20, 15 feet, is just a killer. And then pretty soon you have 3 or 4 guys up there, just pushing that person to get better, make the course,
Yep.
complete that goal.
I was gonna say, I think it was either the person who was gonna go next or the person who had just gone before was also out there trying to, like, literally up at their ear, talking them down that last little bit,
Yep.
along with like several other people. Yeah, just talking them down the last little bit in their ear so they could hear them, not like down in the crowd. So it was really
Right.
cool to see.
So it seems
Yeah.
there's just a huge brotherhood within the combat community too. I mean, just those people that are out there being those really big influences on you and helping you through all that.
Yeah, and that's what I found is, like I said earlier, is that there's not that many of us that really do it. And there's been past competitors and they've just aged out or whatever. And the current over 50 world record holder and the over 60 world record holder is from Nebraska.
Really?
Yeah. He's down on Fort Calhoun Fire Department, retired out of Omaha. And I'm drawing a blank because I can see him, but I can't remember his name, and I am horrible with names. But every time I see him, and he was one of the ones that was instrumental in having the combat challenge in Omaha when we did it, with the relays early on, and was so welcoming and encouraging. Al Ernst is his name.
There you go.
Yep, Al Ernst. So Al was so encouraging for us, like, you got to come down, and there was a team from Omaha that was pretty fast. And those guys, they're like, if you're in Omaha and you want to train with us, come train with us. Like, we'll help you out. We'll do whatever we can to help you out. And so I would call them up and, hey, what can I do? And they'd give me tips to help me out. And there's been some other guys around the country that have been the same way. They're like, they just want to see people be their best. So that's kind of cool to do that. And the whole, like, when I ran in Grand Island one year, the person that I was that they had paired me up against didn't show up. So I was running the course by myself. It was,
Oh, geez.
it
That's
was
hard.
basically just against the clock. Right. So
Right.
I'm racing the clock, and my lieutenant, the guy that I got to come down and compete that year and run the individual, he had asked if he could come out on the course, and he actually came out on the course and was doing that, encouraging me all the way through the rest of it. And then I was able to do the same for him, when he ran his. But that's the way it is, and they'll talk to you. They'll, like, when you're doing that dummy drag, you're like, they mark out 50 feet and 25 feet. And you're like going backwards, and you're trying to, like, oh my gosh, like, where's it at? Is this ever going to end? And you see that first marker, and you're like, oh my God, halfway there. And then the course official that's walking with you is like, 50, you're halfway there, 30 more feet, 25 more feet, 10 more feet, and they're letting you know how close you are to do it and trying to keep, so that you don't drop that. And I remember that first year that I did it, the guy that was my course official, like, he got right down next to me when I was trying to pick that dummy up. And it was all I could do to muster up the energy to pick up that mannequin. And he got right down next to me and was just so encouraging and telling me exactly what I needed to do to get it up and get it high enough so that I could make that 100-foot drag. And then I see this, one of the gals that is on the crew now, I saw her in Rapid City. and she remembered me from 2 years ago in Grand Island. And like I said, I only go maybe do this once a year. I don't go to all of the events, so I don't see all of that, the staff all the time, but they remember people from, and she made a really nice compliment about how I competed that day and looked like I'd lost some weight, and I hadn't really lost some weight, but I had leaned out and put some muscle on, so I looked different, right? But it's so cool when you have that interaction with people like that, and you see guys that, you know, you've watched them on the course, and then like they kind of become your hero, and then you go talk to them, and it's just like, they're, you know, just like you and I. So they're not larger than life, but it's a really cool feeling to have that you can, you know, lean on those guys, and the guys that are super fast, they'll help you out. You know, here's what you need to do. So that's what I really like about that community of the Combat Challenge, and then seeing the people come out, you know, like just ordinary citizens that have no idea what's going on. They stop to watch it, and they're just blown away. Like, how do you do that? So,
Oh yeah,
it really is. It's fun to see their reaction, and it's fun to be a part of that. I call it a fraternity almost, because it really is. It's so, the numbers are, there's not that many of them.
you're in the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah, something like that. So.
No, that's awesome, man, and it's really cool to go watch that stuff, and like I said, the brotherhood's just amazing when you go and watch it and see that encouragement and everything. So.
Yep.
So talking about all of this, the firefighter challenge and everything, and how good it is for your health overall, you've been starting to teach at least once, if not more than once. I'm not sure quite yet how many times, but you've been starting to teach a class regarding mental health with first responders. Now, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but can you go in and talk about that a little bit, or probably a lot bit, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love to, because it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So, at fire school this last year, I got to present a class, mental health awareness for first responders. It was kind of born out of the hospital here in McCook does quarterly trauma reviews, and we always do an education piece. And they're like, hey, can you come up with an education piece to do for us sometime? And I'm like, yeah, I think I have a great idea. Well, I had just written a research paper about equine therapy and first responders, and how it benefited PTSD. And so from that, I kind of created this program to get out and let people know it's okay to talk about this, that it's okay to talk about, you know, mental health, and it's okay to talk about if you have depression, if you have anxiety, you know, PTSD, and all that goes with that. But not so much just it's okay to talk about it, but I also go into like what to look for, you know, some of the signs and symptoms of all of it that goes along with it. And I tie in my personal story with it. And that's been probably the most rewarding part for me, is being able to take my experience and my journey through the shadows of some really ugly places, and come out on the other side with a story or a message that I hope helps other people. And if it helps one person, then it's all worth everything, and all of the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into that program. So, and it kind of started out as like this 30 minute piece. And then it ends up like, by the time I'm done, I'm like, how did we get this long into it? Right. And so it ends up being a little bit of a dialogue with the audience, and pulling some of their own experiences in there, and not really forcing them to talk about it, but just because it's like a conversation over with a good friend over at the firehouse table, right? Sitting down, having coffee, or, you know, sitting down, having dinner, or something like that. And then some of the best conversations happen at the kitchen table of the firehouse, to me. So
Definitely.
so a background on how I got to that point. And my personal journey with it started in 2018. I had reached a point, I was going through a really ugly divorce, a really ugly custody battle with kids. I had a long-term relationship that had just ended, and I wouldn't say long-term. We dated not quite a year, and it was a long-distance relationship, but it had been the first relationship that serious relationship I'd been in since my divorce. And so that hit, the legal battles hit, and then I found out that I was going to be a grandpa. And like, my world kind of got turned upside down. And so I tell people that I had all this spoonfuls of shit going into a 5-gallon bucket, and I didn't know, I'm not sure what spoonful actually overfilled the bucket, but at some point the shit was going everywhere. And that's a nice way to put it. But I had, at that point I'd been in the fire service for career and volunteer for 20 plus years, it's almost 25 at that point. And I just, like, when I was seriously considering being a hood ornament for a semi, I thought I needed to do something different. And I serve as a peer counselor for the statewide CISM team in our troop area. So I go talk about, do debriefings, and I do critical incident stress stuff. And I wasn't able to recognize all of the warning signs, like it wasn't clicking for me. But I also knew that enough from that training that sometimes the spontaneous stuff is what gets us in trouble. So I reached out, as I'm a member of the International Association of Firefighters. As a career guy, I get to be in the Firefighters Union. And there's an amazing facility out in Maryland that is called the IAFF's Center of Excellence. And it's a treatment center for substance abuse and mental health disorders. I'd had all this stuff kind of pile on me at one time, and I had seen the highlight or the ad for that center in one of our magazines. So I called a number, and it's a toll-free number. I called up, and they're like, do you have a problem with do you have a substance abuse problem? And I'm like, no, because at the time I'd been sober almost 23 years. So yeah, I didn't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't. I just celebrated my silver anniversary this year. So 2021 was 25 years of continuous sobriety for me. So
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations,
so
man.
through all of the crap that I've dealt with, that's the one thing no one can ever take away from me is my sobriety. And one of the things that I value the most. And without my sobriety, I wouldn't have any of the rest of the stuff that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of always, kept that in the back of my mind. But so I call this number, and I'm like, I'm standing on the edge, right? I'm teetering on the edge of falling off. And they're like, oh, there's really nothing we can do for you. And I'm like, holy crap, So I was able to get pointed in the right direction and get some help, to kind of get me off the ledge, so to speak, initially. And then we did, and when I come back, I was out of town. I called our union rep, and they're like, oh no, that's not how, so they made some phone calls, and there was a miscommunication, and they had some new people working at the call center, and they didn't quite understand how everything worked, because
I was gonna say.
Yeah, so they answered for multiple treatment centers, but the treatment center I went to is the only one that accepts behavioral health issues. So everything else, it's all substance abuse. So they didn't quite make the connection. So in November of 2018, I went out to the Center of Excellence and spent 40 days out there, inpatient therapy. And it was all firefighters. And it was people that from all across the United States and Canada that had the same kind of, but we're all dealing with the same shit, right? We've all been dealing with the same bad calls and the same bad life experiences. And so having that, someone else that you can kind of identify that's been down that road was a tremendous help for me, because I know when I got sober 25 years ago, that was what helped me. It was someone who had been where I was at, and they could understand what I was going through at the time. And so it was having that same thing to deal with PTSD. And, so I got this wonderful diagnosis that this career has given me of PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Thankfully I don't have depression anymore, but I do have that tendency to fall back into that if I'm not careful. So I share my story and how it benefits, and coming out on the other side of that ordeal, and it's turned into this amazing thing. And I've gotten asked to speak at a few different places. I put it on for, like I said, the hospital here, and I put it on at State Fire School. That's the largest audience that I've done for. And I've had some other people that they're like, man, I want you to come talk to us at our department. Like, this is like, will you come talk to us at our department? And I'm like, yeah. So yeah, it's important for me. And it's, line of duty deaths from firefighters are what we're like on average over the last 30 years, 40 years, almost 50 years is 100 deaths per year since we've been keeping track since the late 70s. 78, I think, is the first year of firefighter fatality studies. And on average, 100 people die in the line of duty. Cardiac arrest, traffic accidents, getting lost and disoriented in a building. All the gamut of what we deal with in the fire service, but we don't track firefighter suicides.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2014, I think it was a 2013 study that Florida State had done, and they interviewed 800 and some firefighters, and out of that 800, 1 out of 5 had suicidal ideations. 1 out of 8 had a plan, and about 1 out of 10 had an attempt of a suicide. So, and that's 800 people. So, the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance kind of tracks that, and they think that if everyone was reported, that we probably are losing close to 1,000. That we've probably lost close to at least 1,000 of that are suicides. So, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, and the only way that it gets reported is if a family member reports it, or if it's a news story, or something of that nature but there's no clearinghouse, so to speak, of that it automatically gets reported. So
the number could definitely be a lot higher than what we know.
Yeah. And and that's the thing that it amazes me is like when it's a sobering statistic.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of understand a little bit, because when I got in the fire service, it was like, suck it up. This is that's part of the job, is you just do it and move on. And everybody in the fire service experiences trauma differently. Mm-hmm. So something that impacts me profoundly may not have the slightest impact on you, and vice versa. And what's a run-of-the-mill call for this firefighter is like life altering for someone else, and it's all based off of our own life experiences. And that's one of the things that I learned when I was out at that treatment center, is that so much of what I've dealt with from my childhood all the way up into why I became a firefighter, it all kind of goes backwards to that. And you can start to kind of pinpoint when we did work through the trauma side of it, you could kind of start to pinpoint where certain things would lean you to go a certain way and why certain calls impacted you a certain way. And, so it was one thing that I learned about myself is that the timing of all of that when it happened the way it did was that finding out, obviously the compound effect of everything else, but finding out I was going to be a grandpa, and that just absolutely scared the bejesus out of me, because I had a call that was an infant call related that I took it way too personal. Like, I felt like it was my fault the kid died. And so then I have all this paranoia and fear that, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to take care of my grandson. And so that all came out of just working through the trauma aspect of it when I was at that center. So, and now I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it's the same thing with my sobriety. Is people are like, would you, can you go back to drinking? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I wouldn't take $1 million if I didn't have to go through everything that I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
But but you wouldn't also, like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to go through everything I've gone through, but I also wouldn't take $1 million to go through everything I've gone through, because it's brought me to where I am today. And all of those experiences have helped shape me, good or bad. And, you can look at it from let it get you down, or you can let it motivate you to do better. And, it's, they say that people who commit suicide, they don't really want to die. They just don't see any other way out. Like, that's the only way that they feel like the pain will stop. And I always used to kind of be cynical of that, because I didn't like, how can, suicide's like throwing a hand grenade in a room full of family. And, that person gets off easy. It's the rest of the people that are stuck with the collateral damage, right? And then I got to that point of like, oh shit, now I know why I get to that point, so, but it's pretty cool. I got some really, really good friends that I met out there that I stay in contact with today. And I always thought, man, I got it so freaking bad. And then I look at this guy, I'm like, yeah, I guess I don't have it so bad. Right? It's all in how you look at it, and it's all perspective. But, so that's been a wonderful journey, a wonderful program that I hope to continue putting out there and giving people at least the opportunity to talk about it. So,
yeah, I think one thing with that caught me is something I've noticed for a while now, that a lot of people, especially on the outside, that don't see into the first responders world, but even in the world, they don't understand that everyone thinks it's one event. It's one thing that causes somebody to go over the edge, or to have those either PTSD, anxiety, or depression tendencies. They don't understand, like what you were saying exactly. It's a big bucket. It's a bunch of different things that happen over time. And that even if people don't know it, there are subtle cues, or if you were to check in with people once in a while, to, even if it's not going to completely empty that bucket, maybe you could empty a couple scoops or something to be able to help that situation with it. So just letting them know that it's not just one big event. It can be, don't get me wrong, it probably could be, but from the experience I've seen with myself and with other people, just it's multiple things that happen over time. And then, yeah, there's just one thing, you never know what it's going to be that's going to send you over the edge.
Yep. It's that cumulative stress effect.
Yeah.
So and that's the research paper that I did really kind of addressed that. And that was when I was doing the groundwork for that. That was what was so eye-opening to me, is that, man, there's actually a diagnosis for that, the accumulative stress effect. Mm-hmm. And it's, you might have a signature call or a signature event, but it's that event for some reason was finally the one that broke the camel's back, right? And but it's everything else that led up to it. And so yeah, the cumulative effect of stress is something that a lot of people don't understand.
I definitely think it's a great program. I hope you keep teaching it because I want to sit in on it sometime. But the thing that really gets me is it's not. I think it's kind of stereotypical that like people think it all comes from like the fire service, the actual job itself. But
Mhm.
in all reality, it's the job, it's the family, it's the whole personal life, it's every problem that goes along with it too. It's not necessarily just the job,
Yeah.
and either from a supervisor's standpoint or a family standpoint. I think it's overlooked a lot of times, like what's going on in this person's personal life that's affecting them at work, and stuff like that. And just,
Yep.
I think there's a lot more
It's-
that goes into it than what meets the eye, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I talk about in this program is that like mental health diseases per se. So you think anxiety, depression, that kind of stuff, those things, the impact that it has financially, there's like close to $30 billion annually in lost production. Like that's the financial impact of not only just like lost production, but you look at people that aren't focused at work, people who call in sick for because they can't get out of bed, because they can't face the world, so they're losing dollars that way. Suicides, lost wages, right? And they're tracking that, and they come up with this astronomical amount of money that mental health issues cause every year. And I'm like, when I read that, I was like, holy cow. Like I never thought of it in that regards.
Right, yeah.
But it is, you're absolutely right, Chris, in that, because when I was in that mindset, I wasn't a firefighter that or a paramedic that should have been doing some of the things that I was doing, because I was like, I know that there was times that I probably made a mistake because I wasn't focused on the task at hand. And I work for we're a pretty small department, everybody kind of knows, and everybody knows when somebody else is off. My shift especially, I couldn't have asked for a better lieutenant, because when I was struggling through my issues, we were like, he would just flat out, hey, something's not right with you today. Why don't you go home? Like, take some sick leave, just take a day of sick leave and go home. And now we kind of joke about it now, and we call them our mental health days. And we'll take a day, like we have it in our contract of, if we want to take a day off, like if we're just like overwhelmed, we take a day. We don't have to have a reason. We don't have to have a doctor's note. It's just and we don't abuse it, obviously, but
Right, yeah.
it's nice to have that, so that, man, if you're not feeling it that day, like you have that way to take the time, focus on yourself, get back to whatever you need to do. Fishing is what I was going to say. And the other one, that's the other thing that I don't get, if I haven't gone fishing for a while, that's my therapy. Like I can go out on the lake and sit in my boat, and I might not catch anything. I mean, I usually do, but and I have a cousin who I fish with a lot, and she has probably, over the last couple of years has become one of my bestest friends. In that, yeah, we're family, but we truly are friends, because she's been there through the low and she's been there through the high. And when we get together, we just laugh like crazy. And I always feel better after that, and I'm friends with a stand-up comedian, and he teaches a laughter heals program and how important laughter is. And that's something that I found, is that, man, when I get to laughing and it releases those endorphins, I feel a ton better. So I tell people in this class, I'm like, find a funny movie. Like if you're just feeling blah, find like the funniest movie that you can find and watch it. I don't care if it's The Hangover. I love Mel Brooks, so find a Mel Brooks movie. You know, Spaceballs is classic. That's my go-to one. You know, Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein. You know, any of those like that. You know, but find something that you can just absolutely howl and laugh at. And one of the things, when I met the gal that I'm dating, when I met her, that drew me to her was her laugh. And she will start randomly laughing about something and just laugh hysterically. And I'm like, what's so funny? And then I get to laughing because I'm laughing at her laughing. And then it snowballs, and she laughs harder, and then I laugh harder. And, you know, we did it tonight just before I came over and we started recording this, was that I did something kind of funny, and she couldn't quit laughing, and it made me, and I'm like, stop, I'm crying, you know.
I feel like I can really relate to that.
I'm looking over while you're talking, and Chris is staring at me. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So, but yeah, just, you know, find laughter. And, you know, we joke in the fire service about having that dark sense of humor, and there's a place for it. There's a time and there's a place for it. Usually not in the Denny's restaurant with, you know, a room full of families, you know, trying to have a nice meal, you know, but that's where the kitchen table at the firehouse comes in handy again. Or, you know, there's a time and place for that. And I've heard some pretty inappropriate comments, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that, but it was funny as hell, you know.
That's one thing I think I learned it probably when I was going through my EMT class, I'm guessing, but like, and maybe it wasn't, I don't remember, but just that dark sense of humor that firefighters tend to have. A lot of it's stress releasing, and it gets you to talk about it gets you to laugh, it gets you just to kind of let things go. So it's not always a bad thing, but like you're saying, you know, there's definitely a time and a place for it, you know. But
humor can be, it's one of those things, if we can laugh about it, we know it can't be that serious. And if we can laugh about it, it loses its power that it has over us.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, very much so.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about with us tonight or anything?
No.
We talked you out pretty much.
I know. Yeah, I can't think of it. Like, I'm surprised we've gone almost 2.5 hours almost. I'm like, so.
Oh, I'm sure we could keep going, but I mean.
Yeah. That'll be for, we'll have to do this again sometime. We'll have to share because I'm, you know, part of the Les Lucre conference, and
we got to give that a plug in here at some point, right?
Yep, we got it. Yep. So
people listening, that's how I met Shane in the first place, from that. So we'll give that a plug.
Yep. FDIC is coming up, so there's so much stuff that we could talk about, but. Yeah. So
we'll have to save some for another episode at least. So
absolutely. It's been a pleasure getting to do this, and I love getting to talk shop with anybody. So
awesome. If people want to reach out to you, first of all, say where they can and how they can find you.
Well, I'm on Facebook, obviously. I think everybody's on Facebook, Instagram. My phone number, I don't have a problem putting that out. So, or email, you know, if you want to email me, my email is shaneasmith36@me.com. And then, I'll pass my phone number on to that, you know, if anybody wants to do that. But Facebook's probably the easiest way to catch me. You just shoot me a message on Facebook, and we can kind of go from there. You know, call the fire station in McCook. Everybody always asks me, hey, what's your number? I'm like 911, you know.
That's the easiest way to get a hold of you, right?
Yeah. Like, so it's just, but yeah, Facebook's probably the easiest to get a hold of me at. But Facebook, Instagram, think that's LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You know, I had to do that for college. But yeah, lots of stuff. So
Perfect.
it's been good. Yeah, it's been good. I enjoyed talking to you guys and look forward to it. Do it again.
Oh, definitely. We've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast, man. So for everyone that's still listening in on our wonderful conversations here, thanks for listening to us. We hope you got some good nuggets out of this, and hope you enjoyed listening to whatever time you listen to it, day, night, evening, whatever you happen to be doing. I screwed it up.
You did
that's
screw it
all
up, but
right.
that's all right.
Whatever time you listen to this, I hope you enjoyed it.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it.
Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening to us.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Couplings Fire Podcast.
See you next time.